like to welcome the guests, all protocol observers. All the time when you see a government representative, you always have to say all protocol observers. Because you really do not know the protocol if you're gonna get it right. So I think that really out every like a problem that I might just perhaps have. So I would like to welcome the delegates and the guests in this order. Mr. Edward Sardi, I hope I got it right in practice. The Deputy Minister of Basic Education, and Ms. Nadi Albino, Chief of Education and Deputy Director of UNICEF South Africa, Mr. Andrew Raj, the CEO of Mxit Rich, and Mr. Edward Mosiwe, which is the DDG at the Gauteng Department of Education, the senior staff of the Department of Basic Education, the distinguished guests, and the soldiers of education and the supporters who share the passion of education in our country. My name is Yesbani, like I said earlier on, and I will be your MC for today as you launch Ukufunda Visual School. Ukufunda, which means land in isiZulu. I'm a Zulu, so Ukufunda means land. It's a South African mobile learning innovation that will raise the education standard and put the power of education in the hands of the learner and the teacher. We have we're in a digital world, so we always want to trend, because we just want to be like when you speak education, when you launch education, you trend. So our hashtag for today, for those who tweet and who are in social networks, is hashtag Learn to Grow SA. Please, ladies and gentlemen, just help us to trend today. And we also have our Wi-Fi. It's Mxit and Mxit 2014 is the password. Mxit 2014 is the password. As we move on, a truly great and meaningful product like this can only come to life when the government, the private sector, and the public benefit organization join hands to make learning, teaching more exciting in our public schools. The Ukufunda Virtual School will today be unveiled by Mr. Edward Sardi, the Deputy Minister of Basic Education, and also the DDG of Education in Gauteng, Mr. Edward Mosiwe, in partnership with Mxit Rich and UNICEF. Education is something I carry close to my heart. I have seen it firsthand, the significant power that it has improved my life. I'm from Guamashu. I was born in the township. I'm a self-taught English-speaking person. I'm a self-taught entrepreneur. I am a social entrepreneur today because I went to school to study social entrepreneurship. This is because I've seen the blight that is happening in our township, and one wanted to change the view or the situation in which one grew up in. So being a social entrepreneur that seeks to address those issues, and being a South African, education for me has helped me to be here today, to be an MC and host this launch with such beautiful people. Today I had tea with the Deputy Minister. I had also tea with Mr. Andrew. I had tea with Albino. Right next to them there, we were sitting and we were chatting, having tea, and I was like, yo, education really helps me. I don't think I would have been able to be here if I didn't go to school. So I can go on and talk about all other things, because I can talk when I'm on the microphone, not only sing. But that's not the reason why all of you are here today. There are a number of key stakeholders that would like to share some insight into the journey of developing Ukufunda and the impact it will have in and beyond the classroom in South Africa. Firstly, I would like to introduce Mr. Andrew Raj, our CEO, Mxit Rich, the technology enabler of the Ukufunda Visual School. Please, Mr. Andrew.
morning, Deputy Minister Sophie, Deputy Director General Masuri from the Gauteng Education Department, my great friend, the Acting Deputy Director of UNICEF, Nadia Albino, senior officials from the various education departments, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I think I've got it. Good morning. I'm really honoured to be here today. It's really the culmination of a fantastic collaboration between the Department of Education, UNICEF and Mxit Reach. Just coordinating our tech here. So a very wise Zulu person once said, Mfundo, Sinkwe Sako, Semishla, Gemishla. Apologies for the pronunciations, I hope that was right. So what does that mean? It means education is your daily bread. Or to paraphrase, your education will sustain you and your family. So today we're launching Ukufunda, which is also from the Zulu word, meaning to learn. But before we do that, I just want to take you on a short journey. So most people in South Africa have heard of Mxit, but few understand the technology and specifically how it's being applied in education, in healthcare, and in counselling. For those of you who don't know, Mxit started in 2005, making it the very first mobile messaging platform in the world. So this was before the likes of WhatsApp and BBM. So a South African company invented mobile messaging. And it seems fitting that we're launching Ukufunda in September, which is Heritage Month, and time to celebrate South African initiatives. So what this is a great partnership between the South African government, the South African technology company, and a great international organisation, which is UNICEF, as well as a number of other partners that feed into this project. So over the last 9 years, Mxit's evolved to the point where it's now available on smartphones, on tablets, but crucially it's also available on feature phones, which means essentially Mxit's available on 8,000 different devices. So what we strive to do is take smart educational health counselling applications and make them available on a broad range of devices. So the first forays into education began in 2009 when the Mxit engineers connected into Wikipedia. So what this meant was someone on a device like this could access Wikipedia, whereas historically you needed to have computer-based access to get onto Wikipedia. And we all know that in a country like South Africa, not that many people have access to computers and broadband. Certainly that wasn't the case in 2009, and even today, a lot of people struggle to access the internet in the way someone in America might. What was really interesting about the introduction of Wikipedia on Mxit is it became incredibly popular. So suddenly people who were used to just chatting with one another were using Mxit to access an information source. To date, over 4.3 million people have accessed Wikipedia via Mxit. More and more people began to explore how they could use Mxit to offer educational solutions. One of the pioneers was Siabula, taking their everything maths and everything science content and making it available on a feature phone via Mxit. It's still a very popular service. Last year, over 100,000 people downloaded the matric maths exam via Siabula on Mxit. Others, like the CSIR and Tikkies, were using Mxit to provide a live tutoring service. So taking engineering students at Tikkies and enabling them to tutor learners via Mxit. Another development was QuizMax. So what they did was develop an application that helped learners prepare for exam. They literally have thousands of questions and answers that are curriculum aligned that help kids prepare. And there have been fantastic examples of how well it's been used. There's a young lady called Shepa Kabusong from King. Now she went to a school where they had a computer at the school but the learners didn't use it. She didn't have a computer at home, yet she was able to use the feature phone and the QuizMax app to take her average marks for maths and science from 72% to 92%. Through that, she was awarded a bursary to go and study at UCT, and she's now studying mechanical engineering. We've had newer educational interventions. Moby School is offering Khan Academy type content available in short videos available on their feature phone. Rethink Education are innovating around the optimal way to deliver content on a device like a feature phone. So So they've taken notice of the fact that learners like to chat. They like to chat on their phones. So what they're doing is they're turning the content into a chat-style interface, which is proving very popular. And the key thing that all of these providers have been able to achieve is they've been able to get content on a low-end device like a Nokia. The other significant advantage is the fact that Mxit is very data light. We concentrate heavily on data compression and ensuring that the service is as cost-effective as possible for people to access. As an example, Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University, NMU, recently ran a national Mxit campaign. There were 20 questions that learners went through over an hour-long period. So they got the questions on their phone and then they worked out the answer and then submitted their answer on the phone. Now, a professor of mathematics at NMU told me the other day that they worked out that the most any learner used in terms of data was 15 cents for that hour-long intervention. So it's a fantastically light service, just 15 cents for an hour of mathematics. Others, like Funza, Nali Bali, Everett, Yoza, and Brooklyn, have introduced M-books on Mxit. So they're trying to encourage a love of reading, but they recognize that not everyone has access to books. So what they've done is worked with Mxit to make those books accessible to people on multiple devices. In July this year, Mxit users spent over 60,000 hours reading books on Funza. Other people like Marlon Parker at R Labs have been investigating how to use or connect expert counselor with vulnerable people via Mxit. So to give you an example, this is one of the ladies at Love Life. So she's a trained counsellor, trained to provide HIV counselling. And there's two ways that she could interact with people. One is speaking over the phone, and the other is via a text-based mechanism. What we're finding is that when you allow someone to text it, it's way more powerful than speaking over the phone. One of the issues around things like HIV is that they're socially taboo. So it's not necessarily practical to go and find a quiet space to have a conversation over the phone because you could easily be overheard, and then your family and friends might find out your HIV status. Texting over or having a discussion with a counsellor via text is far more discreet. The other interesting thing we found is that people tend to be more open and honest when they engage in sort of behind the anonymity of a text-based interface. And the technology is now being used to provide multiple counselling services around domestic violence, rape, child abuse, substance abuse, addictions, many more initiatives. So I hope you've got the picture that we've been using Mxit effectively for a number of different entities, and essentially it's about how we can use the technology for social good. All these collaborations brought together, I guess, culminated in the establishment of the Mxit Reach Trust, which is a not-for-profit specifically focused on using mobile phones for social good. And it was also the start of our relationship with UNICEF and the birth of Ukufunda. So Ukufunda was conceptualized through a series of meetings, initially with UNICEF and then later with the Department of Basic Education. And we began to look into many of the issues that teachers and learners are facing. What we began to realize is that there are a multitude of issues that teachers and learners face. It's not just around education. So if you have a look at this bit of research that was undertaken by Padring Panda, the key question being, what are the biggest problems in South African schools? Okay. So you can see the broad range of issues that we're largely familiar with what these issues are. What became apparent was education wasn't being listed in the narrow definition. It was much more around infrastructure, around psychosocial issues, and around the lack of parental involvement. So taking that a step further, we began to look at a more holistic approach. One that, yes, it would need to consider quality education. It's fundamental to get quality education to kids. But equally important is to address the safety and wellness of learners. We could simply put, a learner who's suffering from malnutrition or some kind of psychosocial issue is not going to perform as well as a child that's healthy, both mentally and physically healthy. So how can we address some of those issues? And then the third component is around social relationships. So very often the community around underperforming schools is not involved in the education of their children, not involved in the activities of the school. What we need to do is involve all parents and the broader community in the education of our children. The famous saying is, it takes a village to raise a child, and we're trying to encapsulate that in Ukufunda. So, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ukufunda. And I'd like to emphasize that Ukufunda is a virtual school. It's not a virtual classroom. It's not just about e-learning. It's about taking a holistic view of education. So what we're trying to do is take the characteristics of a good physical school and then replicate them in a virtual environment that is easily accessible by all. So if you think about it, a good school doesn't just have good teachers. It also has a range of support services. So there'll be counselors for children who are in need. There'll be career guidance, advising kids what learners, what subjects they should be taking, and identifying possible career paths for them. There'll also be leadership courses to help mold young learners. A good school will also have a well-stocked library. It will have things like a science laboratory. There will be debating societies and study groups. A whole range of services that help create a well-rounded individual that is going to ultimately perform well optimally in society. So that's the essence of Ukufunda. So what we're trying to do is take all of those aspects and make whatever we can replicable in a virtual environment. So it doesn't matter whether a learner is from a wealthy or disadvantaged background. Everyone has access to the same services via Ukufunda, and in this way, every household in South Africa can literally access this service. As I mentioned, it's extremely data light and affordable. It costs just cents of airtime to access things. And we're very excited that Vodacom are looking at ways to zero-rate access to Ukufunda, which would really, truly eliminate the barriers to entry to the service. So I'll quickly take you through some of the components of the Ukufunda platform. At its core, it's a messaging service. It's a way of communicating and connecting people. So the system will connect the Department of Education at both national and provincial level with principals, teachers, and learners across the country. Equally, a principal can use it to connect with all their teachers and learners. Teachers can connect with their learners in study groups. They can also connect with other teachers to do peer support. They'll be able to mentor one another. They'll be able to foster a collaborative learning environment, regardless of their geographic location. They'll be able to share top tips and form study groups. The other key functionality that's often overlooked is a simple tool, which is a calendar. So most of us have the system managed for us. We've got access to smart devices that automatically sync to our computers. Someone can send us a meeting invite and we can save it and it magically appears in our calendar. But if you're on a lower-end device, you don't enjoy the benefits of that functionality. So what we've done is we've created a virtual calendar that sits on the Mxit cloud, and that enables the Department of Education or other stakeholders to push events into everyone's calendar. So that can range from provincial to national through to principals. Any stakeholder who would like to create awareness around an event can push it into the calendar. So just to give you an example of the 2nd of October next year, we've aligned it with the Mindset video tutorials that happen on TV and web. So it's a way of notifying everyone across the country that these videos are going to be taking place. But it's also a wonderful educational resource. So I've highlighted some of the education providers. There are many more that are plugging into this, and it's basically creating a one-stop shop or one access point for multiple education providers. We're also looking at how we can plug into the Department of Education's digital cloud. There are going to be things like self-assessment tools and other tests. I'm not sure how many of you completed the ANA test earlier today. We've preloaded the grade 6 ANA, so you're welcome to go and give it a try. That's standard 4 for those of you of my generation and older. So go and give it a try, see if you can pass the standard 4 ANA test. We promise we won't make the results public. But a key point is the fact that all of this is gathering fantastic data for stakeholders. As I mentioned, a good school will have a good library. In this instance, we've taken a virtual library. So we've got our partners like Funza. All in all, we've got over 1,800 book titles available in a virtual library accessible for learners, and we're adding more all the time. There's also career guidance services like Rainbow Careers. So many services that are now instantly accessible to learners and teachers regardless of where they are in the country. I also mentioned that many learners and teachers suffer from stress and other psychological conditions. So a key component of Ukufunda is the safety and wellness area. This is just an example of what the safety and wellness app looks like. It links through to multiple different services. As an example, Angel provides a broad range of counselling services. Childline provides child abuse counselling. There's the famous safety sector. There's a broad range. There are about 10 current services and all, and we'll be adding more and more. But essentially, we're giving teachers and learners who might otherwise struggle to access these services an easy point of reference. So, back to this sort of catch-all slide. I mean, the key message for me today is that Ukufunda is a support system. It doesn't need to be used in the classroom. It's up to each teacher and principal to decide how they'd like to use it. It complements other systems. As an example, a learner could watch a mindset tutorial on TV, but then afterwards they could go and do a quiz on Mxit when they get home. So a good way of reinforcing learning. What it enables is the unlocking of new paradigms in e-learning. We don't know what's going to happen when teachers really start to collaborate and share insights and share the ways that they're helping their own learners and sharing the great, sort of the nuanced way of learning. So a thing that might work in KZN could work elsewhere in the country. Ukufunda doesn't discriminate. It works on over 8,000 different devices, putting a high-quality education support system in the hands of every household in the country. It enables any learner with the desire and determination to succeed to access the tools to unlock their true potential. So I'd like to thank the Department of Basic Education, especially the Teacher Development Unit, and in particular Mr. Temba Gujana and Mrs. Shafika Isaacs, whose input has been immense in this project. I'd like to thank UNICEF, Mrs. Nadia Albino, and Gerrit Moritz, who's now Chief of Education in Namibia, but he was instrumental in catalysing this whole project. I'd like to thank Mxit for contributing funding and expertise to bring the project to life. And I'd like to thank the Mxit Reach team, whose tireless work and dedication has brought it to life. But there's one person I really need to emphasise. One slide behind. So there's a guy in our team called Mxit. He's the quiet, unsung hero of Ukufunda. He's been the lead developer. Everything that teachers, learners, parents, the Department of Education touch on the platform has actually been created by Mxit. But that's not the amazing thing. The amazing thing is Mxit's personal journey. You see, Mxit was raised in Mdugu. It's spelled in Nduku, but you pronounce it Mdugu. Mdugu is a small village about 300 kilometers north of Durban, about 30 kilometers from Shishluri. In the year 2014, the village still does not have electricity. Despite these disadvantages, Mxit showed the dedication to complete his matric. Not only did he complete his matric, he received a university exemption and was accepted to study computer science at the University of KZN. He completed his honours degree in 2011. He then went on a plane for the very first time and came down to Mxit to start working with us. It was actually at his time at university that he fell in love with Mxit and the mobile technology, and his main ambition was to come through from Mxit. So I said, a few years later, he flew to Stellenbosch, he joined Mxit as a developer, and the rest, as they say, is destiny.
My name is Mxit Ukufunda, and I work for Mxit as a developer. I come from a small village in KwaZulu-Natal called Mdugu. My mother is my hero. She has no formal education, and she worked very, very hard to make ends meet, so that my siblings and I could attend school and university.
Ngigqugquzela abazali ukuthi njengoba befuyile benenkomo bengasho ukuthi bozolobela imali abadayisa inkomo beyidayisela abantwana beyofunda.
Every day I would walk 1 hour to get to my school. On the way, I would often dream of inventing things.
I remember Mr. is a well-gifted student, and I remember myself advising him to become a doctor, and then he refused. So, but now I'm very happy to see him now doing such a big job.
High was a brilliant school. The teachers and principal created a supportive environment for us. They had such dedication, always going extra mile.
Mxit was a humble person. He was intelligent. He was good at helping other learners.
I'm so proud to be back at High and for the opportunity to share Ukufunda with my teachers, the principal and learners.
The app is great. It will help us a lot as teachers because we will be able to communicate with other teachers, and it will also help learners to communicate.
If we wanted extra lessons, we had to stay for evening classes. This would mean that I would be at school until 10 p.m. and then take 1 hour walk home in the dark. It was dangerous to walk alone at night, but I raised the point to get an education. If I had access to food while I was still at school, I could have asked teachers questions via discussion groups and accessed all additional nets and science resources on Ukufunda from the comfort of my home.
In most of the classes, we have a lot of learners, 60 to 65 or 70. This app, Ukufunda, will help us a lot to reduce our paperwork as teachers.
My dream is that, despite the hardships and lack of services and resources like electricity, more youngsters from Dole will reach for the stars like I did and become engineers, doctors, and programmers. And Ukufunda will enable this.
I just want to go back to this quote. I'll do my best to pronounce it again. It's Ukufunda, and the person that these wise words came from was the boy's mother. Thank you.
I'm sure a lot of people perhaps relate, and this story resonates with some of the people that are sitting and looking at this video and like, yo, I wish I could actually change the face of my community as well, like Umbuye has done. And a truly South African story. There are some challenges that we can just do. And Umbuye is from KwaZulu-Natal in Mtumba. That's where I'm from. And you see that was our famous stand that the guy was just reciting there. But I'm so big at it. I'm so big and really I'm one of the best Zulu dancers that you'll ever meet and see. For real, seriously, I think that's why Mxit got me here. They knew that the video was gonna play and say, you are the epitome of the Zulu dance and MC, you like the best. So that's why they had me here. So you see, it's from KwaZulu Natal to one club after. So thanks to Umbuye for the great work he has done to come up with Ukufunda Virtual School to bring it to life and for sharing the inspiration story with us. That is truly a testament to the transformative power of education. Our next speaker is the Honorable Mr. Elva. I wanted to just say honorable, but then I think it was going to take time for me. So I think the honorable, I'd like to see myself in Parliament and be like, Mr. Honorable. My next speaker is going to be Ms. Nadi Albino, the Chief of Education and Executive Director for UNICEF South Africa, who generously contributed funding for the development of Ukufunda. I think here is the money.
Thank you, Zakes. I'm not the money. I think we've all contributed in many different ways. Program Director, Honorable Deputy Minister and Mxit the DDG from Gauteng, Edwin Mtsu, CEO of Mxit, Andrew Raj, my friends who worked tirelessly with in getting Ukufunda up and running. They're all at the back there. Shafika, Kulula, Temba is missing, but thank you all. Distinguished guests, protocol observed, good morning. UNICEF is a great advocate of children. I think if you all know UNICEF as an organization, we're the only UN organization that's mandated to look after the children globally. So one of the areas that we work with is education, of course. So for us, we're a great advocate for equitable and quality education. We know that innovation and creativity will get us to reach the children who are unreached. And what we're trying to do with Mxit is actually to get to those children who are very far away from centers and reach them. I think Andrew did a very good presentation of what Mxit Ukufunda can do. And one of the interesting stories that I've heard is that children who live in areas where they don't have electricity and have to read with candles actually find it much easier to do their homework or to read texts of workbooks and textbooks from their phone. So it's really a very powerful tool and very aptly stated that it brings learning to the hands of the learner. We are committed as an organization based in South Africa and globally to supporting the government of South Africa in achieving the vision of the National Development Plan and the outcomes that have been articulated in the plan developed by the Department of Education towards the realization of Schooling 2030. And integral to that plan, of course, is e-learning and innovations. While some progress has been made in the use of e-education between 2009 and 2013, the Ukufunda platform goes one step further in allowing us to exponentially increase the extent to which e-education is integrated into the teaching and learning processes. Education can be delivered through many different mechanisms that are not only accessible to school communities but also appealing and relevant to all children. And that's what Ukufunda is doing for us. The Ukufunda virtual school makes use of a simple tool that is in the hand, that is in the bag or pocket of almost every education official, every principal, every educator, every parent, every learner, to strengthen and reinforce what is taught in classrooms and written in textbooks and workbooks. You know, South Africa is really a shining light on the African continent. For those of you who know geography very well and who listen to current affairs on the news, I come from South Sudan. It's one of the most backward countries on the African continent. And here I am working in a country where the mobile phone is almost in the hand of everybody. The rest of the continent and countries like ours are looking to the kind of innovations that you're implementing here so that we can see how we take it back. Despite the circumstances in South Sudan, almost everybody has a mobile phone. You won't believe it, but almost everybody has a mobile phone. And just imagine the power of that little tool with the kind of thing that we are launching here today. Ukufunda brings together existing applications, as Andrew has just shown us, that offer educational resources to teachers, to learners, that promotes professional development among educators, that keep parents informed about what is happening in schools and in the education system, that brings social and emotional support closer to learners. New applications in the form of the annual national assessment test are also now available on Ukufunda, as Andrew has told us and challenged us to try and do the standard 4 exam for those of us, and 6 for the younger ones. Today is only the beginning of an exciting journey to revolutionize how we deliver equitable and quality learning across the country and across the continent. The possibilities for how we use mobile platforms to increase access to education in real time across the length and the breadth of the country are really limitless. UNICEF congratulates the Department of Basic Education on this bold initiative and is proud to support cutting-edge innovation in the delivery of quality basic education. We are committed to supporting the department in growing the use of technology in the delivery of equitable quality basic education. So let's work together to address inequalities in the education system, raise education standards, and put the power of quality education back into the hands of every learner and every teacher. I thank you.
Thank you to Ms. Albino for your contribution. While there are a lot of visuals for mobile educational technology, these are either only available via a website, through a mobile app, usually restricted to a smartphone devices, those who have iPads. So those are the only ones who get to benefit to such initiatives. But in South Africa, as in many other countries, access to web and ownership for the smart devices is beyond the reach of those who need it the most. Like, for instance, down to Kata, up in the Bombo, and also in the Fufu, like you've seen to the Ukufunda is unique because it breaks those barriers and it allows accessibility and support across 8,000 mobile devices, and it reaches areas where only 2G. I know now we're on 4G, but I've realized we are on 4G. Now I was asking myself, sometimes when I go to a title where I'm from, I'm 2G, and so I'm asking myself, so if you're 2G, you're not supposed to access some information. So I wouldn't know what you are saying, Mr. Sorkin, whether I'm in title because I'm 2G. But when I travel and come down to Durban and 4G, then I'll be able to access information. I think that's quite it's unfair for those who live in the corners of the country. So Mxit provides an enabling environment and the devices, and the device, and also the phone is available on 2G. So you can be able to tell him to say car, or in Bombo, or in Tart, or in Pool. You'll be able to engage with your phone. Further, we'll also speak to the needs of the government, school teachers, and the parents to improve education. I like the metaphor that was used by Dr. Iconic Nelson Mandela. The metaphor used saying education is a weapon, is a powerful weapon which you could use to change the world. And I was asking myself, why did he use the weapon? And I realized that obviously in Africa, we use the weapons a lot. And I think the metaphor of saying that you can use a weapon to change the world, it's a metaphor that speaks to Africans to say that let us use a weapon of education and a weapon of a gun to change the world. And I think we've learned a lot from that. So please help me welcome Mr. DDG of Harvard Development Education, Mr. Edward Masio, who will share the vision and the potential impact of Ukufunda from the government perspective.
Program Director, thank you very much. It's excellent work. When we see you, we don't associate you with Program Directive, we associate you with other things. But we are grateful that conducting this. Let me recognize the Deputy Minister for Basic Education in South Africa, Honorable Mxit. And I always say that in Deputy Minister for Basic Education, we have a champion for education in South Africa, and more specifically, I know that we have a champion in e-learning. I further recognize Mr. Andrew Raj, the CEO of Mxit, and Ms. Albino of UNICEF. And now my MEC is here. I was standing here on behalf of the MEC, but I would rather get my MEC, and he says it's fine. So what I will be saying is what my MEC would have been saying, and at this point in time, I'm going to do this. I understand you may have heard, and I'm now introducing the MEC for Education in Gauteng. You may have heard that the MEC for Education in Gauteng has gone at length to indicate that in his lifetime as an MEC, he wants to see ICTs in education driving the quality of education in the province, which by implication it will extend to other regions of the country. It is for that reason that I would want to invite, with your permission, Program Director, that I invite the MEC for Education in Gauteng, Mr. Panyaza Lisufi, to come and speak on this matter, especially on the notes that he had asked me to speak for, but let it come from the horse's mouth. MEC.
Thank you so much, Program Director, the Deputy Minister, the leadership of Mxit Ukufunda. I mandated the team to come here because I was dealing with some major matters in the office, as well as the team from NCOP, the Deputy Minister, as a former chief whip of that institution. I understand the reason why we have to give that institution the recognition that it deserves. But after I've pushed myself, I felt I should come here because this is close to my heart, to be quite frank, ladies and gentlemen. It's something that I think I've moved beyond the dream now, that I can sense that there is a reality. It's a reality that is about to happen. Where I stand, and the Deputy Minister would confirm that when we're consulting with the National Department, when we're sharing our ICT strategy, we felt that it's something that can happen. And I'm quite excited that within the first 100 days, I can smell it now, that is about to happen. It's something that will happen in our lifetime. I indicate that I see no reason. I see no reason where a child from a previously disadvantaged community, where we have challenges of performance, that the teacher must still write question 1, question 2, question 3 on a chalkboard. By the time that teacher arrives at question 30, 15 minutes is gone. And education is about time, and we have the challenge that we have. In this province, we've got 2 education systems that are operating in one. We have an education system that represents the rich, an education system that has the highest level of skills in terms of principal, in terms of physical science teachers, maths teachers, but they are teaching fewer learners. And we have an education system where the majority are taught by people that need support, need assistance, but they're teaching the majority. And this kind of divide cannot be sustained for any longer anymore. If you check our performance record, we've done the best in the last 20 years to manage this gap. In 2009, the gap between the fee-paying schools and non-fee-paying schools in terms of performance was 24%, which simply means that we had almost that particular percentage to come for us to close the gap between the no-fee-paying schools and fee-paying schools. After almost 6 years, we've managed to reduce the gap to 9%, from 24% to 9%, indicating that the best learner in this particular province come from a disadvantaged school, and therefore it's a confirmation that we've managed to close the gap between the rich and the poor. So the challenge is no longer about that. The challenge is about infrastructural disadvantages. The challenge is about personality. The challenge is about leadership. The challenge is about management. And that requires us to come with new creative methods that will assist us to deal with the issues that we want to deal and the matters that we want to attend. It's a reality, good people, that in this province, when I advertise a post of a principal, when I need the best principal to lead a school in Orlando High or Tembisa, and I've checked the rules and regulations and say, why every time I advertise a post in a township for a principal, I will not get a white principal applying for that post? After 20 years of liberation, there's no excuse for that. So that's the reason why I feel that ICT is the only tool that will allow that good principal, that good physical science teacher, instead of that teacher teaching 13 kids or 27 kids, when that teacher teaches that class, we can broadcast that teacher to the majority of our children, so that teacher can be beneficial to all our children in the system. And that's our investment in the system, and the reason why we are taking this route of ICT. Just to deal with human capital-related challenges, and that to deal with the shortages of leadership that we need in our institution. The third and the most crucial part, the budget of the department that I'm leading is 32 billion. Of that 32 billion, 75% of it is going to salaries. So you've got 25% for you to invest in education in terms of LTSM, in terms of teacher training and teacher development, in terms of your school nutrition program, in terms of your scholar transport and other challenges within the education system. So if your 75% continues to expand because of the pressures of unions, the 25% that is remaining is shrinking every month, every year, purely because they don't have a soft steward who's speaking for that 25%. So we are stepping in, utilizing ICT to contain those particular costs of that 25%. In this province, we spend almost 1.3 billion in the printing of textbook and distribution of textbook, where we can spend almost 700 million in e-books and save the state a lot of money, as part of the management of that 25% that I'm talking about. So our investment, therefore, in ICT is not an investment that we think we can or we want to. It's becoming compulsory day in and day out. And hence our investment in that particular sector. We intend to invest almost 75 billion in the next 5 years. It's a massive investment in that sector. This year alone, we want to put not less than 10 billion in the investment in the sector and ensure that we've got the sector that can respond to all our needs. What is our ICT strategy as a province? It's very simple. We've got a 5-phased approach. The first phase is to deal with issues of connectivity, and that we are piggybacking on the national department and institution of government that are assisting us. So that first phase is to cover all our schools and ensure that our schools are connected. We've concluded discussions with the Department of Communication. We've concluded discussions with the provincial government. The provincial government is investing in what we are calling broadband connectivity. So that broadband connectivity is going to kick in the next 2 years. But in the first 2 years, we want to connect all our schools. Our strategy is very simple. We are connecting from grade 8 to grade 10, and from grade 10 the next financial year to grade 12. The reason why we are emphasizing on grade 8 to 10 this year and next year, we've taken a conscious decision that we want all our students to take full maths, 80% of our students to take full maths by 2019. Not maths literacy, full maths. 80%. So we need to put the investment therefore to give them that support. And we believe ICT is that investment that we want to provide, that support that is needed. So our first phase is to invest in connectivity. And I'm glad that when the schools reopen, we've identified 5 schools as our pilot project. When the schools reopen in those schools, every learner will be connected to the desk, not to a principal office. Every learner will be connected to the desk, and every teacher will be connected, and we'll have one learner, one tablet, one teacher, one laptop, one interactive board, and declaring the chalk and the chalkboard history in this province. It's a commitment that will happen in our lifetime. It's a commitment that will happen in our lifetime. It's no longer a dream. So that's our first phase. Our second phase of our ICT strategy in education is therefore migrating from paper to digital. Defining how we host this, the team has just went out for call for proposals. It's closing later this week. We are then changing from paper to pure e-curriculum. With the partnership with the National Department of all related materials, we are taking that material from paper, we are migrating it, and we are developing a platform to host. And therefore, we are advertising and requesting partners like yourself to say, play in that space. This is the space where we want to engage with you. So that's our second phase, and we're in that phase now. The team has just concluded the work that is needed. We have cost for calls, we're consolidating, we are dealing with that first, second phase. Our third phase is training. And I'm glad the CEO of Mxit Ukufunda is here, Dr. Chaka. I've given them the mandate, we've allocated almost 600 million to train all our teachers. And we're taking an advantage of training for ICT to reskill all our educators for the content that they're teaching in their schools. We are targeting 85% to 95% user rate. So we are investing 600 million annually for the training of all our educators, the reskilling of all our educators, so that by the time we reach phase 4, which is the distribution of gadgets, people are trained on how to use those particular gadgets. Because if you don't train them and invest in training, people will revert back to the old way of dealing with things because it's a simpler way. So that is why we're investing in that. We are changing our old Gauteng online labs. We're converting them into training centers so that all our educators and all our learners can be trained and be part of this particular program that we're involved in. And then the last phase, we're establishing an agency here to be an agency that will engage in dispatching technicians to schools where they have problems, in ensuring that this ICT strategy is functional and can operate in our schools. Our investment, Deputy Minister, and that is why we welcome platforms like this. That is why we want to partner with you. That is why we are part of these particular programs. Our bigger dream, Deputy Minister, I don't want to compete with Limpopo and Eastern Cape. I don't want to compete with Western Cape. I want to compete with BRICS countries because I believe as this particular province, we are better positioned to pull the country up so that other provinces can follow us and we can close the gap between the poor and the rich. It can happen and it must happen. And we believe ICT is that vehicle that can assist us to minimize the gap, to mitigate against the challenges that we have in the system, but to pull us to ensure that every teacher performs and every learner performs. You will never be the best if you don't recruit the best. So our strategy, therefore, of ICT is underpinned by our clear conscience that we want to recruit the best. We have to recruit the best principals, the best teachers, and the best institutional advisors that can ensure that we deal with these things. Even the service providers that we are appointing the best. We don't want to appoint for the sake of appointing. We want people who have track record, that are South Africans, that understand where we want to take education in this particular province. That is why when we say we recruit the best, we believe that schools stands and falls on principals. If you can't get the best principal, you can't get the best school. So the recruitment and appointment of principal, deputy principal, and HODs from now on in this particular province is based on 4 important thrusts. It's your commitment, your competence, your skill, your talent, and qualification. Nothing more, nothing less. Your membership to a certain union or political party. If you didn't enjoy it in the last 20 years, hard luck. In the next 20 years, it's not about that. Want an institution that can function, and for that institution to function, you must have the personnel, you must have the institution that can function purely because it's based on merit, nothing else. And therefore, your advices, your guidance is going to be determined on them. Are you capable to do it? Are you capable to partner us? Because days of learning on how things must work are over. Things must work. You must not learn that they must work. They must start to work. And I wish you well in your engagement. And thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Mansum, yourself as Program Director, says the journey of Ngoyi, the journey of Lesufi Panyaza Lesufi, and I've always indicated to Lesufi that if you take it is a combination of French and Oriental language, philosophical language. Le means the in French, and Sufi is the wise one. But I call him the smart kid. That's what he is. Honorable MEC for Education, Gauteng, Mr. Andrew Raj of Mxit Bridge, the CEO, my good friend, Ms. Nadil, I've got Albino, thank you, it goes with age, you know. Representatives of the various teacher unions, representatives of EDT, PCTAs, representatives of SACE, ELRC, as well as representatives of Cisco and Vodacom, as well as UNISA, members from the Department of Basic Education, they are seated out here, the hard-working team that's out here, and members from the Department of Education, from Basic Education, from the Provincial Department of Education. All stakeholders were present. I have to do that as part of my task to acknowledge and recognize everybody. I wasn't seated where I could see you, so it's sort of back of my head, and you must have noticed that I'm losing hair. It's something, it's good to have Panyaza speaking before me because it speaks about a new generation, a new vision. And the fact that he's so enthused and optimistic, and he says we will during our lifetime, sends a very strong signal that it won't happen in my lifetime, it will happen in his lifetime. There's the advantage of age. But what I do recognize is the intensity of his passion. And indeed, what he's doing, what he is doing, is very, very smart. The good news is that when the ministers met with the MECs for education, they had decided, and it was a unanimous decision, that Panyaza Lesufi and I should co-chair the team for government as a whole in terms of enhancing opportunities in the field of ICT. So we have a co-responsibility in that regard, and I'm glad that you've spoken before me and also shared the platform with me, given our mutual responsibility in this particularly important area. I'm glad that we recognize that we are indeed in the 21st century, in the century of possibilities. But it's a lot about technology, but more about resolve and commitment and self-belief. The journey of Nkui, the journey of Zaid, the journey of Panyaza Lesufi has been one of resolve and self-belief and a commitment to enhance the opportunities for others. It's more about others and less about themselves. And as a result, you hear and see more about them, and you understand why they are so committed, because it's about the generosity of spirit and giving. That spirit there is what will drive us forward as a country. And in doing so, we must recognize the incredible opportunities that we have as a result of technology. If you want to enhance mathematics and science, if you want to improve on its condition, you can't do so without the appropriate technology. Because as you teach children mathematics and you teach them in science, you also teach them of the benefits and use of technology in achieving, in creating a better society, a society where we look at the well-being of our learners. I'm quite pleased that Mxit Reach is doing what we've regarded as one of the 10 priorities, that is the well-being of our learners at schools. Let's say as we enhance ICT opportunities, it's also amongst the 10 platforms for this administration. We certainly cannot neglect the welfare and well-being of our learners. I raise this in the context of the fact, and I think what Mr. Sufi tried to do as he addressed it was to say that we cannot escape the huge divide, the disproportionate development, the inequality in our system of education, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of amenities, in terms of access to opportunities. And we have a collective responsibility of ensuring that indeed we create better opportunities and we utilize technology in order to bridge the digital divide, to provide access to quality education, as my colleague Adil had said. Now, where are we right now? We are in a process of celebrating again the incredible innovation capacity of our country. And Mxit Reach, through its wonderful technicians, its CEO and its team, is launching in collaboration and partnership with the Department of Education an incredibly unique opportunity of creating, of allowing every educator, every parent, every learner to carry a school in his or her pocket. That is what it's saying. To say you're not talking about a classroom, you're talking about a school. You're not only talking about mathematics and science, you're talking about annual national assessments, you're talking about access to libraries and techniques, you're talking about education content. So it's a range of possibilities in a virtual environment that is allowed through this particular initiative. And on the platforms that we have, those of Vodacom and those of other service providers, we might say, rather than having it very economically as we do right now, we might give it for nothing. That would be a huge, immense contribution to changing the character of our system of education and providing access to quality education to each and every one of our learners. But it's also an element that we've looked at very, very closely. So if you look at what the National Development Plan says, if you look at the priorities that we've identified as a collective minister, deputy minister, and the 9 MECs of education, we said that we have to emphasize on collaboration. But we cannot do it alone, and that we would rely on partners such as UNICEF, partners such as Mxit Reach, and other service providers to ensure that we are able to reach the outcomes that we seek to desperately to reach so quickly, sooner rather than later. And the evidence is there in abundance. The fact that we have Cisco present out here, the fact that we have Vodacom here, representatives of UNISA, representatives from Mxit, UNESCO, means that there is a will and a resolve to work together to ensure that we provide quality education. But I always look at initiatives of South Africa as not only domestic initiatives. They are initiatives that should go beyond our borders, that they are about our region and they are about our continent. So what Mxit is providing domestically to South Africa as a government, to our citizens, to enhance better opportunities in quality and access to quality education, means that it would quite indirectly be making that available to our sister countries and our continent. So it becomes not only a South African initiative, but an African initiative. We believe the time has arrived for societies and countries as a whole to recognize that there is a public good in education. That it's not something that we look at as a commercial initiative where people should enrich themselves. Rather, it's an instrument through which people should create better societies, develop economies, and certainly create a better world. And that recognition and affirmation is indeed growing exponentially. So if you look at what is available in terms of open source resources and content, it's quite amazing. The fact that you get a Wikipedia through your Mxit, it's free access to it. And just Google and see what you can get free of charge, whether it's mathematics or science, means that we have to make use of open source information and content that is available to you currently and will be even available to you more greatly in the future. So that's the one element. The second element, and this is what interests us, and this is what makes this particular initiative quite different is that we have a versatile possibility. If you can basically speak to a very ordinary basic telephone or mobile phone or a smartphone or an iPad or a laptop, we have 8,000 different types of devices that you could speak to, means that you are in a situation in a very, very adaptable and agile way, in a very smart way to be able to reach out to everybody else. And the realities of our choices must be informed by the context with which we are in. So we have more than 50 million people in our country, but we have more than 63 million mobile phones. So it would suggest that most educators, most parents, and many learners have access to technology. If not permanently, but certainly at home at some time during the day. And therefore, mobile technology really becomes important, and that is why an analyst had said that when we talk about mobile education, we're using the wrong term. We should be talking about a gateway to human knowledge. That is what mobile phones is. It's a gateway to human knowledge. I didn't say it, an analyst had said it, and I think he was correct. So we basically provide ourselves with a gateway to knowledge by carrying a mobile phone, or an iPad, or a tablet, because that is a technology. And we certainly say that in doing so, we are creating a virtual school. So we're carrying a school in our pockets as well. And so the dream and the hope and the belief of Niyaza al-Sufi is a real one. I think it is within our grasp. I think it is within our reach. What we are saying is that we have this archive of knowledge available to us. But we've got to create an infinite archive conforming to and aligned to our curriculum from grade R to grade 12, where every learner in every grade for every subject is able to access through technology the content. And that's quite incredible, that's quite interesting, that's very, very possible. And Vodacom and Telkom have already created a cloud in order to give meaning and content to this, where you can access it. Vodacom says you can do so free of charge if you are a user of their mobile phones, and they certainly are willing to host the Department of Basic Education's e-cloud, which will be a collaborative initiative with our 9 provincial departments of education. And the Mxit Ukufunda program itself means that we're going to do something that nobody else on the continent has done. We're going to be providing free access to every citizen of this country of educational content. I think that's incredible, and people do not know how huge it is. It is wonderful. So I feel as excited as the MEC for Education, Niyaza al-Sufi, feels when we talk about this particular opportunity. But there is another element to this. And I'm so glad that our representatives from the teaching unions are here, and I would like to recognize them and thank them. Thank them for making themselves available when the Department of Basic Education with UNICEF and Mxit sat together to say, over the past 11 months, how do we construct what we want to construct in a way that is acceptable to not only the Departments of Education, but also to the teaching unions. And I know in particular SATU, NAPTOSA, and the Afrikaans and other ways have been active partners, and if the dates are, my memory serves me right, I thought it would have been between the 4th and the 5th of May or March or April this year, and we've also had the wonderful opportunity of inviting the provincial representatives to be part of this particular process. So when we look at Ukufunda, we are saying that it is not an initiative of the Department of Basic Education, but indeed it's an initiative of all departments of education within the country. And that endorsement is very, very critical. But what it does, it also responds to and I want to read this very, very carefully. I'm going to do what lawyers say, what the lawyers do. It's called an integrated strategic planning framework for teacher education and development. The acronym is SPFTED. Lawyers would say hereinafter referred to as the strategic framework. And that's what I will do. Now, the strategic framework adopted by all stakeholders in education, that is higher education, teacher unions, practitioners, departments of education agree that in terms of improving both the content and pedagogy of educators, one is compelled to look at opportunities that technology presents itself. Because that's where you get access to information, that is where distant learning, open and distant learning can take place. That is where you could assess your ability in a very non-invasive, non-intrusive manner. And we're indeed excited about the fact that what Mxit is doing right now, Mxit Reach with the departments and through UNESCO, with the support of UNESCO, is creating opportunities for every educator to assess her or his ability in every grade, in every subject in terms of content knowledge, through a mobile phone, through a laptop, or another device. I think that would be the greatest stride in terms of moving towards performance assessment and management of our educators. Give educators an opportunity to test themselves privately, non-intrusive. And if you do that, they will certainly have the confidence to say, well, I am satisfied that I have sufficient knowledge in this particular area, or alternatively, I'm not very satisfied, I'm satisfied about my performance generally, but there are areas where I have to make an intervention. And again, you create a platform through your assessment, like you do in ENA, to say these are the deficiencies in terms of learner achievements, and this is what you could do to improve it. So your quizzes, your maths quizzes, your programs that you provide in the ENA initiative itself are utilized to enhance not only learner performance, but also teacher performance. And the reality is, we must recognize that we are growing and we are learning. And we have to have a commitment to lifelong learning. If we don't, we're going to be standing still. We are not going to be moving as quickly as Panyaza wants us to move. You know, it's so hard to get back to notes. I don't want the department to say, well, we've prepared for you and you have not recognized this. I almost think I've covered most of what they wanted me to say. But I do believe that we tend to underestimate our capacity and ability to reach out. So if, for example, we take an initiative, and I'm not even going to talk about Mxit Reach now, I'll talk about the initiative of Vodacom, which has about 55% of subscribers countrywide, and has a cloud to which everybody can have access, free of charge. It means 50% of the population is able to access, utilize devices, is able to access education and knowledge, quality education and knowledge free of charge. Now imagine, to get to the other 45%, believe me, it's not difficult. I think there's a moral imperative that comes into play that every service provider must say that if you access either our Ukufunda cloud or the e-education, the education cloud, you would do so free of charge. That means you're basically providing a wonderful, wonderful gift to the nation. And after all, it is their responsibility to do so. And I'm convinced that we are going to reach there. I always say it's less about the devices. It's more about the content and the technology and the application that we can develop. And what we have here is an application and a solution. And it provides you with wonderful opportunities. I mean, you can basically say the permutations are so great, you can choose any device you want to, and it doesn't matter whether you are rural or urban. But we should not lose sight of the fact that we have a particular responsibility in terms of rural education. And if we do not exploit this opportunity well, we would not be able to reach out to our children quickly enough. You know, yesterday we delivered a state-of-the-art school, Mr. Panyaza, in the Western Cape. It was worth more than 48 million rands, but I think it was money well spent. We had to just look at the infrastructure in the environment. And we do so week after week, providing not only the infrastructure, but providing furniture and media centers and connectivity. Key. So if you go down to the Bode and the CPC in the Eastern Cape, you will find every school, even if it's a primary school, has ICT connectivity, it's fully furnished as a library. And I think that's critical for us to recognize that we can't work partially or fragmentally in terms of these issues. We have to give full solutions. So when Mr. Panyaza, the Sufi, says that it's every child should have a device, that you have an interactive whiteboard over there. It's not even talking about an overhead projector, and I can understand so because your devices allows you to basically project without an overhead projector. Technology is advanced to such an extent that you can have conversations just within a classroom in a very sophisticated way. So we certainly welcome this, and we launch this very, very, very important initiative as an initiative not only aimed at educators, but also at our learners and our parents. Secondly, to say that it creates a wonderful opportunity for our teacher development centers. We've established 40 fully functional teacher development centers, highly sophisticated in terms of their connectivity, and through the auspices, again, through Vodacom support and with the support of UNICEF, we were able to train more than 173 teacher development center managers. They all know how to use Mxit. They know about technology. And they are going to be the drivers. They are going to be the catalyst for the change that we want to bring about in this education environment, because they are accessible to all educators in different environments. Now, can you believe it? Can you imagine that by the end of next year, and that's an assurance I can give to you, by the end of next year, you will have no less than 133 teacher development centers which are going to be fully functional and connected. Now, that's a huge stride from where we were. But we need that because teacher development is critical and necessary, and inset training is important. And indeed, our teacher development center managers have a particular responsibility in ensuring that ICT and the proficiency in terms of utilizing platforms such as these become critical and necessary. And then we can indeed say that in terms of the strategic framework, where we said that we would create professional communities of learning, it is indeed a reality. And as we speak now, a network is growing so rapidly amongst teachers who through the teacher development centers are able to network with each other, and that is becoming a reality in the lives of our educators. I would imagine, Mr. Lesufi, by the end of this term, I think that's a legacy that we as a collective have to leave to this country. It's a dream that we spoke about before you even imagined that we were going to be an MEC for education. We now have the responsibility politically and otherwise to do so. And the dream was that by the end of this administration, if at all we are in any way involved in education, we should ensure that every child has access, free of charge, to ICT, and that indeed he or she will be able to embrace the 21st century with the appropriate confidence, appropriate opportunity, and the appropriate instruments to ensure that quality education is a reality in the life of every child. Thank you very much to our partners for launching this year. It is with great pleasure and almost aplomb that we do so, but we believe that this is an important milestone, perhaps almost as important as the delivery of one school per week, which we've been doing consistently since last year. This year is state-of-the-art technology that we present to the nation. Thank you very much for your time.
I don't know if the protocol allows for me to speak after the MEC, but I will take my chances and speak after you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think, like I said earlier on before the minister addressed us with regards to the future of our country, and when we see leadership such as what has been displayed in this podium, we as citizens, ordinary citizens of this country, we are present parliament. We feel that the country is in safe hands and that we are definitely moving towards a better direction. I'm a custodian of education, and I believe that you do not have to have a title for you to be able to contribute in a community. That we have to do with it doesn't have with the government or with the budget of the government to teach one another, but the private sector, parents, unions, MECs, ordinary citizens will be able to contribute to making sure that such initiatives as Ukufunda were able to achieve what Mxit has just started. So I would like to thank Mr. Vanessa Desufi, MEC, Mr. Eva Safti, and I also would like to thank Ms. Ambina, and also thank Mr. Andrew for your contribution and making sure that this program is launched today, and I'm hoping that from today onward we'll be able to engage with this program. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to our end of the program, and as we celebrate 20 years of democracy and its Heritage Month, and this holistic mobile approach to the learning and the teaching in this country paves the way to develop a new generation of well-rounded local individuals. I would like to say that we've come to the end of our program, and now I can invite you to join and to have some nice snacks and have coffee and tea, also network and exchange business cards and cell phone numbers and download the Mxit app and engage with the app. Thank you very much.